Today we're going to focus on how to make a tuna casserole because you're broke and you don't want to have to eat cereal again until tomorrow when you get your paycheck and you just happen to have tuna in the cupboard. Let's get started.
Now before you do anything else here, you need to really stop and think about the life choices that have led you up to this point. And I mean really think about them.
Why, God? Now one of the reasons that I've chosen tuna casserole to make is that I happen to know that we do have some of the other ingredients required to make it. Let's take a look at them. First of all, you'll need some egg pasta. I don't know what egg pasta is, and I bought this bag 2 years ago, but it says that it's still good, so it probably is. Next, you'll need 2 cups of cheddar cheese. I don't have cheddar cheese. What I do have is Colby and Monterey Jack cheese, and I think that one of those has cheddar cheese in it, so really they're the same thing. Now this recipe calls for 1 can of frozen green peas. I don't have a frozen can of green peas, and actually, I don't even have a can of green peas at all because these are expired. What I do have are green beans. Now they're both green and they both come in cans, so I don't see why they're not interchangeable. Now of course, one of the most important ingredients in any tuna casserole recipe is the cream of mushroom soup. I don't have cream of mushroom soup, so instead I've drawn this close approximation of what cream of mushroom soup would look like if you did have a can of it. We'll hold on to this for demonstrative purposes later on. Now we need to move on to the actual cooking process. Step number 1 is to boil some water. That's something that not even I can get wrong, so I would hope that you can do it well. If you think that you may have broken anything in the cupboard, close the door and walk away. Eventually the problem will resolve itself. Now the recipe says specifically to make sure that this water is lightly salted. Since you don't know what that means, nor do you care, just grab some salt and throw it in there. Now once your water is boiling, you'll need to add the noodles. You should note, however, that according to the recipe you need to add 12 ounces of noodles, but you actually have a bag of 16-ounce noodles. Now since you don't feel like changing all of the other ingredients to better suit this one, just try and make it 12. There, that seems like some amount. Now remember that tools are for suckers, so just use your bare hands over this boiling pot of hot water. This recipe also calls for this to be boiled for 8 to 10 minutes or until al dente, which I believe is a German word for communism. Since we don't speak communism here, we'll just set the timer for 8 minutes, because that's the shortest amount of time. Now pasta, of course, continues to cook even after it's been pulled out of the water due to the heat from the cooking process. So we need to strain it in order to keep it from overcooking itself. And that's very simple. All you have to do is grab a strainer and set it into your sink. Now what you need to do is take your strainer and set it in the sink so that it balances nicely along the sides. Make sure that at least 30% of the water splashes back out into your face. It's very important that this happens. And now you have passed the point of no return, and there is no going back. So preheat your oven to 425 degrees. Now of course you could have done this beforehand, but let's not get overly ambitious here. And last, but certainly not least, the most important ingredient, our cream of mushroom soup. So just tear the top open carefully, just like that, and then slowly pour in and work it into the mix as you're pouring. There. Throw the empty container away and keep mixing. Now that all your ingredients are mixed and your oven is preheated properly, you're going to need to grab a pan to put all the ingredients into. Now this recipe calls for a 9 by 13 inch pan, but since the concept of knowing the dimensions of cooking hardware is both laughable and foreign to you, just grab something that you think tuna casserole would probably go in. Now there is a slight chance that you will have nothing even close to the size required to make this recipe. You may in fact just have a very small glass thing which is not nearly big enough to hold the amount of casserole that you have made. There. Now don't you feel confident. Now you need to take your casserole and put it in the oven. The question is, for how long? Well, the recipe says for 15 to 20 minutes. But that's for the whole recipe. This is slightly smaller than that. So we're just going to guess. Now leave that in the oven until Now when you think it's been long enough that if you wait any longer your casserole will start burning and light the house on fire, it's probably time to take it out. So let's do that. Now of course an oven mitt would be a safer route to use than a dishcloth, but who has oven mitts? That's just insane. Now very carefully, while burning your fingers, pull the casserole out, set it on the stove, and look at the affront to God that you've created. The hissing means that it likes you. Now, some professional chefs will mention at this point to wait till the casserole cools down before you try it. But those guys are dumb. It should be fine. It's been out for at least 30 seconds. See, you know, these long, stringy bits of pasta that fall off and land back in the casserole, those are a good sign. Okay, let's try it. Now what you want to do is grab a bowl and set it on the countertop. Into this bowl, place a spoon. Follow this with some extremely healthy cereal and add milk. Very good. Turned out spectacularly.